Hello and welcome to the Venture Café Presents. I'm Christine Dunn. Joining me today is Enrico Palmerino. He is the founder of Smart Books, but before that he was kind of a serial entrepreneur. He also founded ThinkLight. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So talk to us a little bit about what got you into entrepreneurship. Why did you become an entrepreneur? What inspired you?
I think when I was a kid I just hated the idea of working for someone else, and as selfish as that sounded, I ended up going out and just selling like candy to my friends at sporting games, and eventually bought a gumball machine that I put in a store. And once I started making my own money, I decided I'd go and start buying more gumball machines and doing it more, and then hiring my friends to do it, and then I was hooked.
So it's kind of in the DNA. You couldn't help yourself.
I couldn't. No.
So ThinkLight actually ended up having quite a nice ride. You ended up being on the Inc. 500 and everything else. But it wasn't smooth sailing per se. You kind of had a lot of different challenges along the way. So tell us a little bit about that story and how you came to that idea and exactly what it was.
Smooth sailing is right. It was like going through a storm. We started the business with the idea that vertically integrate the lighting market and provide this all-in-one pay-as-you-save analysis through installation and manufacturing solution to these businesses. And along the way, we started growing. It took off to a certain degree, but as it took off, we had all these issues with financial capital because we're fronting all these engagements. So now we have all these customers waiting for us to get started, and we couldn't fund the projects to do it. And we started with a client that we botched the installation, to say the least, but we did everything we could to make it right by him, and he gave us chance after chance, and before you knew it, we named a light after the individual, Lori Hamill, and now he's like a major proponent of us. We patented that light. It's been a huge success, but I definitely was on teeter-tottering, I think, on the bridge of bankruptcy. Not truly, but I couldn't pay off my credit cards at that point.
So tell us kind of how you came up with the concept. Why lighting? What was it that kind of inspired you to start a lighting company? What was the value add that you were trying to add to the market?
So honestly, I watched a commercial by GE about like this spiral CFL light bulb, and had a light bulb moment where I couldn't believe that people were paying $35 for this light bulb, and how on earth is that going to ever save you money or break even when you could buy an incandescent for 10 cents. And I was a math major, ran some models, saw that in 6 months, like the savings actually paid for itself, and said, well, I don't have a home to invest in, but I'd love to invest in other people's homes. So we built a model around, we're going to pay for the lights for you, we're going to curate and find lights that will be the right fit and replace your existing light, and do all this work and cost and buy everything, and then you just give us a percentage of the savings. So
you're trying to help companies become more energy efficient by helping them kind of restructure, their lighting systems, basically.
Yeah, and it evolved into us writing a software that automated the whole process, and we could do what took other people 2 weeks in only 2 hours, and it produced so much data that we could actually patent lights, and
it just grew from there.
And then the rest is history.
So when you were conceiving of this, it started with a light bulb, but then it grew into a whole system. Kind of walk us through the process a little bit. I mean, what was it like kind of evolving the services as you went along? Was it something that you just kind of saw, we should be going down that route and kind of build it from there? Or did you kind of start with a huge plan and then move it forward? If you were explaining to another entrepreneur how to evolve your idea from one simple concept and question into a whole system, what are some of the steps that people should be thinking about?
So first off, all-nighters, because when we had this idea, well, why don't we buy these lights for other people, and they'll pay us back out of the savings. Like, that was just how it started. And we pulled a bunch of all-nighters and wrote this program that would assess the savings, and then went around and started offering to people. Along the way, we started building up this crazy database of all of the efficient substitutes out there for each light. And then that became like a major headache where now we got to maintain this crazy database, and the lights are always changing, and now we can't even do what we want to do because we're so worried about this, and that's not our business. So why don't we make our own lights? And that was one of those thoughts where we're like, maybe in 10 years we'll be a light manufacturer. But we won a competition with Alibaba that happened to send us to China. We told them we didn't want to do what the competition had called for. Instead, we wanted to meet with manufacturers. And they said, that sounds great, we'll put you on TV, we'll take you around, we'll introduce you as being US entrepreneurs coming to China to do business. And we met a few of the right people and started making our own lights. And then as we were making our own lights, you know, we basically, we're doing all these analyses, we're producing our own lights, and as we do more analyses, we realize, well, every restaurant has the same problem, and there's no light out there that really does it well. Why don't we make that light? So started spending a lot of time, brought in some people that really know lighting to help us out, and next thing you know, we were patenting lights. But along the way, we were making every mistake left and right. We were falling flat on our faces numerous times and making decisions that cost us like hundreds of thousands of dollars and you know, loss. But we learned.
So when you say you're making a lot of mistakes, what are some of the mistakes that you feel probably tied into common mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs can make when they're developing a product or service?
I think it's tough. There's no one answer for it, and I was thinking about it recently. One of the things I used to say all the time, like, I made a mistake that cost us $300,000 in terms of was given information too quickly. I assumed what it meant, and then made this decision. And forever I was like, haste makes waste, like that rule number one. But then there's the motto, the early bird catches the worm. So I look back at it and I say, like, in that decision and in that criteria, if I knew what I knew now, I would probably have been a little more cautious. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change the way I act with a different decision, because it might be better to go right in and go quick, and because I went quick, the opportunity was there.
So is it almost, in that kind of situation, almost worth making the jump and hope that you can mitigate any losses later with any gains? Is that kind of the thought process? Or?
Do first, apologize later if you have to.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, you know, the one thing I learned from failing was, like, fail. Like, do it. Don't avoid it. Don't learn from as many other people's mistakes as you can, but continue failing, because that's the only way you're really going to learn.
Do you think that that's kind of the mark of an entrepreneur, somebody who's willing to fail?
I think the mark of an entrepreneur is someone who's failed a ton of times. Not just willing, but has done it many, many times over.
So I noticed that you kind of allude to the fact, or talk about the fact, that there were many times where it was very financially challenging for you and you had to consistently overcome. Was that part of the inspiration for starting Smart Books?
Totally. So we had probably some of the most complicated accounting out there, and because of that, our books were never really right, and so therefore, like, what we had coming in for receivables didn't always match what we had going out. And there's one case with Longfellow Tennis Club where we didn't even have the capital to put back the old lights they had, if that was ever asked, nor finish completing the installation that we were doing. And
so tell us a little bit, back up a little bit, and tell us a little bit what happened with Longfellow Tennis Club.
So we went in, we did this, like, great 3D model of Lori Tennis Club, Longfellow Tennis Club in Wayland, and we were able to show them that, like, we can cut savings down by 50%.
Wow.
And that meant $20,000, maybe $30,000 a year in terms of energy consumption, which
it really adds up over time.
Yeah, and then from an environmental impact and everything else, it was going to be great. And we're going to improve the light quality of the club. The first product we made, we realized some of the assumptions or whatever in terms of the output weren't right. So go through, take down all of his old lights, install these new ones, go up there. It looks good. His club members come in the next day and they're like, "It's so dark, it's so dim, like, what did you do? Like, I'm leaving this club, I can't see the tennis ball." And we're like, "Oh God," and he's like, "I'm getting angry email after angry email." So we're like, "All right, look, we'll fix it. Just give us a shot." And he was like, "You guys are young. I believe in entrepreneurship." Sure. So in the meantime, we made these flyers and posters that we, like, put up all over the club that showed that, yeah, the lights might be a little bit dimmer, but Lori's saving all this energy and it's better for the environment, and we're going to improve and bring better lights in. We also went around with drill bits and drilled holes in every fixture just to get more light to the ground, which made every fixture look hideous and ugly. And then we started producing this new light, and we invested like a ton of money in it, to the point where this project alone we were losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then I went and made that mistake where I was told if I didn't let the mold cool quick enough, it wouldn't last as long. And I was like, last as long. They last 10 years. Maybe I only get 5. No, it didn't even last the production run. So $300,000 later and equipment failure and $150,000 in new product and another 8 weeks of being delayed for Lori. We finally got the product to him. We put it in. He advanced us cash on the savings. He basically said, I'll prepay all the savings in advance.
So he really believed in you guys.
Oh, he did. But when it went in, like now, like he's able to like point up to like the lights and be like, see that? That's a Hamel light. And everyone like looks at them because they look completely different than other lights.
Right.
It's super bright. But it got to the point where when we ran out of money and I couldn't pay our contractors, and this was due to the accounting, like our receivables were coming in too late. I went out and I bought $5,000 worth of Amex gift cards using my credit card and then we handed those out as like, here's prepayment, you know, it won't pay the oil bills or the mortgage, but groceries and stuff, at least we'll take care of you until we have a paycheck. So
wow,
it was tough. But.
So you really had to have people who had faith in you. I mean, it sounds like that's another lesson, is really having people who kind of can get behind you and believe in the idea and believe in your ability to succeed after you fail.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think a lot of it too is it's more like they believe in, if they see you and they see you doing, they believe in the work ethic. Mm-hmm. So these guys, even our electricians, they saw me put everything on the line, no money in my bank, max out all the credit cards, give them Amex cards, and then as soon as we had cash, I took all the Amex cards back that they didn't use, and they're like, that's a guy I want to work with forever because he could have just stiffed me, and he didn't. So do first, apologize later, and if you have to, like, go out of your way to make it right.
Right. Wow. Well, Enrico, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really appreciate it.
Don't mention it. Thank you for having me.
For the Venture Cafe Presents, I'm Christine Dunn.